breaking. No one knows Jimin to the military alone for Jungkook's sake. Shocking facts revealed. In the latest development that shocked many ARMY around the world, a report circulating from internal circles mentioned that Park Jimin traveled secretly to the military headquarters not for agency business, not for promotional activities, and not even on official instructions, but rather for one very personal reason: Jungkook. According to a reliable source who did not want to be named, Jimin's arrival at the headquarters where Jungkook served was not scheduled on the official agenda of HYB or the military. In fact, some of the closest staff did not know Jimin's movements until he actually arrived at the location. He just said, "I need to see her, even if it's just for a little while," the source said. Jimin brought no team manager, no camera, no intention to make this content. Most surprisingly, Jimin is said to have experienced administrative difficulties because his visit was very sudden. However, after explaining the urgency, which is not mentioned in detail, the military eventually gave permission for limited visits with strict supervision. Only for 15 minutes, some speculation arose. Some say that this is related to Jungkook's psychological condition, which had decreased during his military service. Some say that the two were involved in a personal conflict before enlistment, and Jimin felt that he had to fix it directly, not by phone, not by text message. "If I didn't come, who else?" Jimin said to one of his colleagues shortly before leaving, based on testimony reported by one of the insiders. Interestingly, there is not a single photo or recording from this visit. Nothing was published by the Korean media. However, after news of this slowly spread through fan communities and military forums, some in the ARMY began attributing Jungkook's drastically changed attitude last week to this secret visit. Many fans were moved to tears, feeling that the closeness of the two during this time was not just fan service, but a deep and real emotional connection. He came not as an artist, but as someone who cares. "That's what makes our hearts touched," wrote one of the ARMY on Twitter/X. Sources said that after the brief meeting, Jungkook was often seen as aloof, but also much calmer. He didn't talk much to his teammates, but there was one notable change: he started writing. Not a military report, not a letter, but songs, and the song, according to unconfirmed leaks, is about someone who comes in when no one else dares to step in. The news of Jimin's secret visit to Jungkook's military headquarters not only caused a stir among the ARMY, but also touched the emotional side of Jungkook's own family. According to reports from an internal source close to the family, Jungkook's mother called in tears when she first heard that Jimin had come unaccompanied, took himself to a military location only to see his youngest son, even if only for 15 minutes. A relative said, Jungkook's mother didn't say much when she heard the news, but she just nodded slowly and said, "He's always taking care of my son, even when we can't." Jungkook's father reportedly showed a change of expression when he heard the story. Despite being known as a quiet and decisive figure, this time he was seen holding back emotions. "I thought only family would care that much, but he, Jimin, proves that their bond is so much more than just coworkers." Meanwhile, Jungkook's older brother, who has been under less media scrutiny, said he respected Jimin for his bravery. "You know, not everyone wants to travel that far just for someone who is going through a tough time. That's not an ordinary act." The source, who lives in the same barracks with Jungkook, said that although Jungkook did not initially know that his family had heard about Jimin's visit, he was eventually informed by a letter from his mother. In the letter, his mother wrote, "Son, if you feel tired, remember that you are not alone. The person who comes to see you with all their heart is proof that love doesn't always have to be expressed out loud." Jungkook cried that night, according to his barracks mates, not because of sadness, but because of relief. Because finally, he felt all the burdens that had been buried in silence slowly began to be understood. With this news spreading, ARMY began to relive the little moments they had seen behind the scenes. Jimin's gaze to Jungkook, the way Jungkook always knew that Jimin was not okay, and the way they looked after each other among the noise of the world stage. Now, all of that makes sense. Because there are feelings that cannot be packaged in words, but continue to live in action. And when one walks alone to the military headquarters without a sound, only to see someone who is going through his hard days, isn't that the most obvious form of love? A few days after the news of Jimin's visit to the military headquarters leaked in limited circles, one interesting thing was revealed from the surroundings of the barracks where Jungkook was stationed. A soldier in Jungkook's company claimed to have heard a faint guitar sound at night, when most of the other soldiers were already asleep. To his surprise, the voice came from a private rehearsal room the military provides for soldiers with musical talent. At first I thought it was just Jungkook playing around to pass the time. But when I heard the lyrics, I realized it's not just any song, said his military partner, whose identity was withheld. He recalled a piece of lyrics that sounded very emotional in Korean. When you come without a word, I know it's not too late. My hands are cold, but my soul is home. The song was never officially recorded. In fact, when his colleagues asked him if he would take him to the studio after his military discharge, Jungkook just shook his head slowly and said, "This song is not for release." And when someone carefully asks, "Then for whom?" Jungkook just stared far out the window, smiled faintly, and replied, "To someone who comes when there's no one." No one knows for sure. But one interesting thing, when Jimin was briefly interviewed at a closed-door HYB event towards the end of the year, an MC asked casually, "If you had to pick one song from an unreleased member, whose song would you want to hear?" Jimin answered without thinking for a long time, a song he didn't even dare to sing out loud. "But I know. I've heard it, though only through silence." The words immediately sparked speculation. ARMY believed that even if Jimin had never physically heard the song, he could feel it. Like their closeness all this time, not always visible, but real, now that all these little stories have begun to shape the big picture. Many fans are starting to realize that Jimin and Jungkook's relationship is something that is beyond the standard reasoning of the entertainment industry. It's not just about group mates. It's not just about the idol and the stage. But it's about two humans taking care of each other in a way that only they both understand. There is no official statement. There is no public recognition. But sometimes, love, or whatever the name for such a strong bond, doesn't need a label. It only takes small actions, a visit in the dark, a piece of song that can only be sung in silence, and a meaningful look when the world doesn't even turn its head. And maybe that's more than enough. Jimin's visit to the military, which was originally thought to be just ARMY speculation, has now turned into a true story that rekindles fans' enthusiasm. No cameras, no media spotlight, no publicity. He comes as a best friend, a brother, maybe even something more. And for many ARMY, one thing is becoming increasingly clear: genuine feelings never need great evidence. It takes a little courage to step forward, just like Jimin did.